Welcome to Tales of Ted DeGrazia, a Big Blend radio podcast covering the art, life, and career of Southwest artist Ted DeGrazia, as well as the current events and exhibits happening at DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun. It's a 10-acre National Historic Landmark located in Tucson, Arizona. So welcome, everyone. We love our time with Lance Laber, the Tucson dude, who's the executive director of DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun in Tucson, Arizona. We always get to talk about artist Ted DeGrazia. He's one of the most reproduced artists in the world. He is known for his work covering the Southwest, and not just the landscape and the nature, but most specifically the people. And that's what we're going to talk about. If you go to the gallery, you will see that there are the permanent exhibits that people go to. No matter how many times you go to visit, you'll see something new. But there's always something new to see on top of that. There's rotating exhibits. Right now on exhibit is Ted DeGrazia in the studio of Diego Rivera, and also Luis Serpa's portraits of Ted DeGrazia. These two exhibits, and also the Way of the Cross, which has been extended this year, will be up until September 3rd. So you've got your last big full month plus to go and see these before the new rotating exhibits come in. And we'll talk about that at the end of August. But first, welcome back, Tucson dude. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's always good, Lance. Now, any monsoon action at all? I heard you had a dry start, but may have had some rain at all. How's it going out there in the desert?
No, it's terrible. I think it's rained. Excuse me. It's rained once or twice all summer, and it was supposed to be a good monsoon, and it's not happening.
Not yet.
It's just hot and dry.
Well, so this is the thing. If you go to Tucson in the summer, you hike early in the morning or at the end of the day when it's really hot, you go to the gallery and enjoy walking through this amazing architectural gem that is this beautiful adobe building, as well as the Mission in the Sun. And you go see the buildings that Ted DeGrazia built with his friends, the Yaquis, and also Mexican people also helped him build the gallery, right? Or is it mostly the Yaqui Indians?
Yeah, it was the Yaquis and the Tohono O'odham, the Papago Indians.
Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about.
And he had a lot of friends that helped him. You know, there were regular people too.
Yeah, just regular people, just friends. Come over. I'll pour you a drink at the end of this. Yeah. And
yeah.
I wonder if he got Lee Marvin to get his hands dirty when he came to visit. I wonder.
I doubt it, but who knows?
Who knows what they got up to? Well, everyone, really go check out these exhibits. The one with him, the studio, it's cool in there. Seriously, it's nice and cool. So it's a nice thing to do midday before or after lunch. Go check out the gallery, especially as a new timer going into Tucson. This is something I always tell people, you want to go see something different. I know there's always these, main attractions to see, but I'm going to tell you, every person I know that goes to the gallery, they go, wow, I had no idea. And then on the flip side, there are people who we bump into as we travel across the country, goes, oh, my grandmother has a plate by DeGrazia. We have a DeGrazia painting. And then they call Lance, and Lance goes, yes, that's a reproduction, right? Is that what happens? A lot? Call you up?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So
people do have originals occasionally.
They do. And sometimes they have a mural in their house. That's popped up in time. So there's DeGrazia is, world-renowned, nationally renowned, and definitely well-known in the Southwest, especially with his work with the Arizona Highways magazine. I think I always like to bring that up because what a gorgeous magazine. It's still going, right? That's the thing, too. We got to give him a shout-out.
You know what? About a month ago, we went to Phoenix to Arizona Highways had its 100th anniversary, and they were inducting DeGrazia into their first Hall of Fame class with about there was about 10 other people. A lot of them were photographers that took all these beautiful photos for Arizona Highways. But then there was a couple of artists, Ross Santee and DeGrazia, were inducted. Yep. 100 years for Arizona Highways.
That's fantastic. I love that. We got to, protect the independent media. It's independent in a sense, but it was part of the highways. And I think, that's what we do. Nancy and I travel full time across the country on these highways. It's just something so protected. And Arizona has some of the most diverse scenic byways and historic highways you can explore. And it's far more than what people think is just one big sand patch, with some Gumby cactus. And I think that's the beauty of when you go to DeGrazia Gallery and you get the sense of all the people that make up the Southwest. So before we get into the Papago Indian legends, and I'm so excited to talk about this. This is one of the permanent collections that you can experience at the gallery that was started from 1975, I believe. But before we get there, let's talk about those exhibits because Lance, like we're saying, they're going to be coming down September 3rd. So after Labor Day is your cutoff here. So Ted DeGrazia in the studio of Diego Rivera. People must be loving this because Diego Rivera is such an iconic, artist from Mexico and muralist, very outwardly spoken in what he believes in, and he uses his art for that.
Diego Rivera was a communist. DeGrazia certainly wasn't. DeGrazia was a capitalist all the way. But the paintings are from the very early days, like the 30s and the 40s, and DeGrazia's initial work, and it's very interesting, and some of it's very dark, Indian funerals and little dead children. Not, it's all part of it. It's all very, very interesting work.
And so this was when he was like an apprentice, right, or like an intern.
Well,
Diego.
no. This was in the early 30s through the early 40s. DeGrazia had been painting already a long time, but he was, I think he was trying to find a niche, and he was having a hard time selling his work because the subject matter was really so sad and so dark. Of course, Diego Rivera and Clemente Orozco loved it. They loved his work. So, they encouraged him and they supported him. So anyway, that's the early days, and very nice artwork.
And then the other exhibit is Louise Serpa's Portraits of Ted DeGrazia. And she was the first female photographer to actually get her Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association card, the PRCA. And she is really well known in rodeo photography. But I love to talk about women who, make some firsts in there. And she certainly did. And it sounds like she was a friend of his, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they were friends. And I think I have this right, that she was the first woman to be inducted into the Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure. Of course, don't hold me to it, but yeah, Louise was a very nice lady. She outlived DeGrazia. I knew her for a few years, and we did a couple of different exhibits of her photographs. She took a lot of pictures of DeGrazia. She took a lot of pictures of his hands and him doing sculpture and doing, ceramic clay work. So that's what's up right now.
So
very interesting, very nice photos.
Yeah, go check this out. I think she must have enjoyed it too because he's an interesting.
All the women love DeGrazia.
Okay, so this is where we're going, are we? Yep, I was being very good.
Well, I'm not trying to insinuate anything. I'm just saying that they all loved him, including
charisma. Yeah, he had a charisma. Yeah, and he was a Renaissance man, and I think and creative, and it's like but he was married, and that's a whole other story. We've touched on that, and that's another episode. Women connected to Ted DeGrazia, including his mother. Everybody, so check that episode out in the archives. So let's talk about the Papago legends, Indian legends. The Papago. So the Papago are the Tohono O'odham, right? And is that right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. But they have two different names.
Well, they were formerly known as the Papago. That was the Mexicans gave them that name, or the Spanish did, and it meant bean eaters. I have friends, I have Tohono O'odham friends, and I've asked them, do you consider Papago derogatory? And they said, nah, we've been called that for years, and that's, both. But they prefer the Tohono O'odham because that was their original.
And their lingo, yeah, their language, yeah. So this is, I think, one of my favorite. I can't say that because every time I go in, I go like, oh, now this is my favorite thing. So I need to stop with the idea of favorites because still the Cabeza de Vaca thing, I love that exhibit so much. But the legends to me, these tales are so important because it's just, they're universal in a way, having lived in different countries, especially in Africa. This and some of the legends kind of transcend what we have as country boundaries, right? And it's an understanding of earth. There's a sense of magic and mysticism, spirituality in there, but I think it's understanding nature too. And I love this. I love these legends. And so he really did this in the 80s, right? When he did this series.
No, DeGrazia died in '82. These were done like in the '60s.
On the 60s.
60s,
Okay.
early '70s. I don't have the exact date, but
Yeah.
no, this was way before the '80s.
Okay. So one of the legends is, and again, everyone, this is a permanent collection. You can see at the gallery anytime. And the gallery is open, every day except for Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving or something. I mean, the things.
New Year's, Thanksgiving, and
Christmas.
Christmas.
Amazing.
We're open 361 days a year.
Well, I'm glad one of us can do math. That's good. Creation of the world. So tell us about this painting and this legend.
So, okay, it's hard to describe a painting that nobody's looking at, but the creation of the world is, there's two characters. There's the yellow buzzard and Earthmaker, and they're spinning in space, and they spin and they spin in space, and they create the world. And then there's the next painting is Earthmaker standing on the world, looking at what they've created.
Wow.
So that's how the world was created according to the Tohono.
Okay. Well, okay. So that's wow. So they got the spinning going. It's hard to explain.
I'm just trying to think what's next on the wall. Then there's a watercolor. Those are oil paintings. There's a watercolor that comes next, is how the people of the world were created. And there's a coyote, and he was baking cookies. And the first batch he burned, and he throws them across the ocean. And then the second batch, he undercooked. So you have the first batch is black, the second batch is white, and then he throws them across the ocean. And then the third batch is perfect. They're brown, perfect in, the Indians. So that's how the people of the world were created.
Wow. So so this gets into the coloring too. That's interesting. So this is
that's how black people were created. The first batch was burned. They threw them across the ocean. The next batch was undercooked. It was white and threw them the other way. Right. Oh. And then the third batch was perfect, and that was the Indians.
So this is the legend. So everyone, don't come yelling at us. This is the legend.
That is the legend.
Yeah, that's a legend. And so we're undercooked, Lance. So
we are undercooked.
I think we have a lot of learning to do. So maybe they're trying to tell us something. I don't know. So, but this is so cool. I mean, for him to paint this, and then you think about the coyote, because isn't the coyote is also a trickster in Native American lore, in legends, the trickster.
Yeah. The coyote was busy. He was baking.
I didn't think he was baking. He was making his own biscuits. Yeah. Wow. Right. Okay. So you got the coyote, and then what is the Eotoi? Eotoi? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Eotoi. Okay. So Eotoi is a magical character. He comes pretty much in all their legends. He's the hero, but he's like a shapeshifter. He can turn himself into anything. He can turn himself into a giant. He can turn himself into a bug, and he just shows up in all their stories. And there's a story. The next story is the Monster of Quitovac, and the monster was huge. He was this giant monster he looked like a big lizard, like a big horny toad, and he would come into the village, and he would stomp the village, and he would eat everybody. So they had to get rid of him. There's a painting of Eotoi inside the monster. He climbs up inside the monster and cuts his heart out and kills him, and then the tribe eats him. So, they all live happily ever after, and they get rid of the monster.
Wow. Okay, and he lived by a lake. Is that he lived by a lake, the
Yes.
monster?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And he ate the Papagos. Wow.
He
So
ate everybody. Yes.
and that's why they moved to the desert. So they actually came from the water in the ocean area because, the coyote was baking near the ocean. And, but this is on the other side of the world. So we got to think about ancient times. And so they moved to the desert to get away from him, right? So that is crazy. And so, Itoy ate the heart.
They lived in the desert,
Yeah.
and the monster lived by a lake. He didn't live by the ocean, so he would just come into the village and stomp the village in the desert. Yeah, the Tohono O'odham always lived there in the desert.
And there's water in the desert, and there are lakes in the desert. So,
there is sometimes.
Yeah, well, Patagonia, and there's some little area. And back in the day, there probably was more. But now, so Itoy challenged the monster and actually, stabbed.
He climbs up inside of him and kills him. Cuts his heart out, kills him, and then the tribe has this giant thing to eat, which they did.
Dude, this is some cool stuff.
That's kind of it's a short legend. It's only a couple of paintings.
Okay, now what about the Eagle Man? Come on, we want to hear about Eagle Man. Oh,
Eagle Man. Eagle Man was a regular, normal human until a really bad witch put a curse on him and turned him into a very nasty Eagle Man. And Eagle Man kidnaps a Tohono O'odham woman and rapes her. And they have an eagle baby, and of course she's being held captive and being raped, and she hates them both. She hates Eagle Man, she hates baby Eagle Man, and so Itoy has to rescue her, of course. So there's the next painting. There's a painting that shows them in a cave with a little eagle baby, and it's actually an etching. It's probably one of the only etchings we have on display in the gallery. The next painting is a big oil of Itoy shooting his arrows into this tall mesa, and he uses them as stairs, and he climbs way up to the top where the cave is, and he goes in there and turns himself into a fly, and he's just waiting to get the drop on Eagle Man. And then the next painting, I'm doing this all from memory, I gotta tell you.
You go, Lance. I mean, this is amazing. I'm like, this is the coolest storytelling time ever. I'm like a little kid right now. Keep going, man. I'm loving it.
Anyway, so he climbs up to the cave, turns himself into a fly, and then there's the next painting is actually the eagle baby gets it first, and it's Itoy cutting the eagle baby's head off. So that's the end of those guys. And of course, he saves the girl, and everybody is happy again. Everybody lives happily ever after.
Man,
there is actually one more story.
Yeah?
If you can stand it.
I'm in.
Okay, so let's see. The next story is Hoak. Hoak is a very bad witch. She has a basket. She wears a basket on her back, and she chases children, and she catches them and puts them in her basket, and she eats them. So she's not a very nice witch. She's pretty bad. Anyway, so there's a painting of her chasing the kids around, and so they decide they've got to get rid of her. Obviously, she's terrible. So they decide they make a plan. They get with Itoy and they decide to have a dance. And the next painting is Itoy dancing with Hoak. And you can see she's a witch. She's got these big, nasty claws when she's dancing. So it's not a normal thing. Anyway, the plan is to get her drunk. And they get her drunk, and she passes out, and they carry her into this cave. And they pack her full of kindling and sticks, and they light her on fire, and they burn her up. And the last painting in that series is Itoy turns himself into a big giant, and he puts he caps the cave with a boulder, and that's the end of Hoak. That's the end of my stories.
Wow. I love these stories. I do. I'm like, I love this. And then he went and painted these stories. I mean, he was into all of this. He really was into that, into,
DeGrazia loved the two tribes in Tucson,
yeah,
the Yaquis and the Tohono O'odham, and he was amazed by their stories and their legends, and
yeah,
he wanted to document it, and the truth is they loved him for it. Both tribes. He also documented the Yaqui Easter,
yes.
and we still have a very close relationship. The gallery, the foundation does with the Yaquis. I deal with these guys every year, and see them occasionally and go out to the res, and we do our deal for them to come out and deer dance. So
That's
they're
awesome.
still very, very appreciative of what DeGrazia did for their culture
Well, that's, I
by
think, what's so
describing
important.
it and painting it.
Yeah, I think it's so important of keeping their stories alive and for others to understand them. It's so difficult because so many stories and traditions were passed down orally in our indigenous people's lives. It was all very oral. And so for the Anglo side of life, and others, you just don't know the stories as much. And then there's a lack of understanding. And so his painting makes it accessible to anybody from anywhere around the world to see it. Visual storytelling is huge, for those who may not understand the languages. And not many of us know how to speak Tohono O'odham, at all. I can't even pronounce it properly. So my apologies. So no, I remember the first time you came on a podcast. Oh my God, Lance, I think it was, oh my gosh, it's over maybe
It's
15
20
years.
years.
Yeah, it feels like that, right? Yeah. I mean, well, our podcast
It
was
is.
18 years. And I think you were one of the first people when we first started doing the podcast. And I remember you coming on the show and I said, Saguaro, and you went, stop right there. That is not how you pronounce saguaro. Like I remember because we didn't know we weren't from there yet. We didn't live in Tucson yet, but it was our first trip to Tucson. And I remember we went to the botanical gardens. We went to Tohono O'odham Park, which we love. Tohono O'odham, both places. And we did the history museum, the historical society museum, and we got to see. They actually took us behind into the vault to see the pottery, and that collection is incredible. And we went to some other very amazing attractions that Tucson has. And then I remember, we got to go to DeGrazia, and we went to DeGrazia and went around the gallery, and then we finally got to meet you. And I don't know, man, it was like you go to cities and there's attractions, and I think Tucson does an amazing job sharing its history. But there was something about going to the gallery where Nancy and I thought, oh, Tucson gave us, and it was like, I can't explain this, and I'm not knocking anything, but there was something between going to Tohono O'odham Park and DeGrazia Gallery that made us feel like, oh, this is really real. It's integrity was so real about where we were, about the land, the place, the people. It felt really good. And we ended up moving to Tucson through that trip. Isn't that crazy? And so it's part of going to the gallery that we moved to Tucson when we moved to Tucson. You do know that, right? It's because of that.
Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah, it's cool because it's so real and it's so keeping the stories alive of the desert, the people, and through painting and music and all kinds of things. It just was like, oh, this is the coolest place ever. So please, people, in the summer when you travel through, and you're gonna drive through Tucson on road trips, stop, get a hotel for a few nights, and there are things to do in the summer. And DeGrazia Gallery will blow your mind if you've not been. And if you have been, every time you go in, you'll probably be like me and Nancy. We'll go, man, I didn't know that. And we've been doing shows with Lance for years, and there's always something new. And I have to say, today's stories just like trip me out, man. I'm so excited about this. I'm like thrilled. And I was just looking on the website, and everyone, it's DeGrazia.org, and they do have a write-up about these legends. And the collection was finished in 1975. So yeah, it was from the sick because he couldn't do the whole thing all in once, right? But so it was before the 80s. But it was the 80s where the name Papago was officially changed to Tohono O'odham, into the O'odham language, which means desert people. See, I'm on the site. It tells you.
So everyone, you got to go to
Very good.
DeGrazia.org,
Good job.
and you can go shopping online. See, it's Christmas in July. See, get your shopping going now. Why wait? Why have a drama? You could do it now. You could sit online, beat the heat, sit online during midday and go shopping. How about that, Lance?
We need everybody's support.
It's true. DeGrazia is a national landmark, historic landmark, and you've also been included like on the National Geographic map. Remember those maps when they did that was really, and it's still a piece of history of what is really unique in a place that tells the story of people. And remember that map? That was done 20 years ago? 15, 20 years ago too? I remember being on meetings on that map, but it was in a different Arizona town. And the people that came in were from Tucson that were working on it. And one of them is one of the great grandsons of Zorro. So I don't know if you met the same people we did. Yeah. I was just like, we got Zorro, we got DeGrazia. This is some cool stuff, man. Tucson's got it going on. So, yeah. But everyone, don't forget those exhibits are on display until the 3rd. There's always those permanent collections there. And there's also the consignment room. So that's a thing I wanted to bring up because that's going to change too, right? The consignment. You've got the one room where it's people that have given you some of their originals or prints, right, that you sell in there. So that's
it's all original. It's all original. And, we change it out as we sell them. People buy paintings, leave the space. We'll get more people. People contact me all the time with the paintings they want to sell. So
does the
gallery?
Do you sell any ever just for the gallery's sake for funding? Oh.
You mean no? We don't. We don't sell out of our collection. The only way I can sell paintings is taking them on consignment, or occasionally I'll buy a painting on the secondary market if the price is right.
Well, yeah, because you got to keep this funded.
Yeah, they made a rule a long time ago. Our board of directors that we don't sell out of our collection.
Yeah, for good reason.
There's too many paintings. DeGrazia painted too much. He painted so much, and really, people just bought so much stuff from him. The market was glutted with DeGrazia stuff, and it would really hurt. It would hurt the market if we started, selling out of our collection.
It's interesting. It's interesting stuff.
There's a lot of paintings out there to sell, and so we don't really need to do that.
And there's so much. I wonder if it's ever ended up like any of his stuff on the Antique Roadshow. I swear to God, he's got to have ended up there with some of his work.
I've never seen anything on there. I do watch it occasionally.
I did. I love watching that. Nancy and I watch it and place bets. And I just like where some of the presenters actually want to live in that era. Anyway, I should shut up now. Anyhow, so thanks, Lance. It's been fun. As always, everyone go to DeGrazia.org. And when you go to Tucson, be sure to visit the gallery. It is on Swan Road. Thank you so much, Lance. It was fun to have you back on the show. And we can't wait to hear about new exhibits coming up.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Tales of Ted DeGrazia show. This show airs every 4th Sunday. Learn more about DeGrazia Gallery in the Sun at DeGrazia.org. Follow the show at bigblendradio.com.